a half hour left for most people to have their voices heard, where machine issues are extending voting hours, and how the lines look right now, live from Sky 5. Plus, a razor-thin margin for the White House and many local races. WRAL's Capitol Bureau Chief explains what early polling shows and what's at stake. Then, from the governor to the state superintendent races, we take you inside candidate watch parties, counting down to the results. WRAL has complete team coverage of this election day and your Decision 2024.
And here we go. Right now at 7, most polls across North Carolina will be closing in about 30 minutes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this election night for special WRAL coverage. I'm Deborah Morgan.
And I'm Gerald Owens. 2 polling sites will stay open 30 minutes after the 7:30 closing time for the rest of the state. One of them in Burke County, the other in Wilson County. We begin tonight with an Election Day dispute at a local polling place. Brian Schrader is following that for us from the Live Center. Brian, what happened?
This is Sky 5 video over Elevation Methodist Church in the Benson area. Deputies got a call of an assault there this afternoon. They got to the scene, and witnesses say that a poll worker and a voter got into a dispute over that voter's ID. And witnesses say that the voter assaulted the poll worker. Deputies say by the time they got there, whatever happened had already broken up. No charges had been filed, but they did inform everybody involved that they could go through the magistrate. Now, I want to show you what is ahead for the rest of the evening in the battleground states when the polls closed. In Georgia, the polls closed in just a couple of minutes ago, so we'll be getting those returns shortly. And in North Carolina, of course, 7:30 is when we will start to get the results in. Pennsylvania, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, a lot of Midwestern states. Also, Arizona will start to come in, and Nevada, polls close there at 10 o'clock. And by the way, NBC News has just made its first 2 projections of the evening. Kamala Harris winning in Vermont, and former President Donald Trump winning in Kentucky. No surprise there.
All right, the first of the results coming here at 7. We have team coverage with reporters across North Carolina at candidate watch parties and live analysis as the results come in.
The biggest race of this election day, the one for president. We are watching this closely as ballots continue to come in. At some point, we will know who the next president of the United States will be. But the question is, how long is that going to take? We see Kamala Harris there and Donald Trump. And as we said, it's going to be even later because we have a couple of polling places, a couple of counties that are going to delay their results.
Yes, but North Carolina is, of course, one of the 7 so-called swing states when it comes to the president's race. The state has not backed a Democrat for president since 2008. However, polls show Harris may have the support to change that.
We're not going to have the official results till probably after 9 o'clock tonight. Dan Haggerty and our Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie are here with us in the studio to talk about the final hours of the contest.
So, of course, you're going to see this map a lot as they tally the votes nationwide. We are going to spend a lot of time here, Laura and I, discussing what the state of North Carolina looks like as things continue to progress. So, early voting, what did it show us? What didn't it show us?
Well, one thing I want to just add before we get into that we didn't mention in our intro, the polls are still open till 7:30, and if you are in line at 7:30, you do get to vote. So if it's not too late, you can still make it if you've been putting it off. Just wanted to let you know that. It may be a little later than 7:30 when we start to get results because there are people in line at a lot of places is what I'm hearing. Right. Anyway, okay, back to early voting. All right, so we had a lot of weird data this year. We had a lot of Republicans voting this year. We had a lot of women and a large gender gap. But we can't really predict the outcome for a couple of reasons. Number one, just because you're a registered Democrat or a registered Republican doesn't necessarily mean that's the candidate you voted for. And because we know North Carolina, we love to cross tickets in North Carolina, and people do switch parties for different races sometime. And the second thing that's really a wild card tonight is the unaffiliated vote. We saw a huge unaffiliated vote during early voting. We've never seen that before. Unaffiliated voters now make up the largest chunk of voters in North Carolina by registration numbers. So, of course, it's really difficult to know how those folks are going to vote at all.
We also spent a lot of time watching candidates in the eastern part of the state.
Huge, yeah. This is really the swingiest part of North Carolina, right there on the east. One county that we're watching really carefully, Nash County. This is a county that has picked the right presidential winner 3 times in a row now. Voted for Obama in 2012, Trump in 2016, and Biden in 2020. Very swingy, as you can see. So we're going to be watching really closely to see where that particular county ends up.
Lots of things to pay attention to, not to mention Western North Carolina and all the things they're dealing with post-Helene. So much of that will unfold as we continue to watch it from right here, guys. Back to you.
Thank you.
And the race for the next governor of North Carolina has gained national attention. Today, we could learn whether Democratic Attorney General Josh Stein or Republican Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson will move into the governor's mansion. WRAL's Ashley Rowe starts our team coverage.
She will be watching the results come in at the Stein campaign and joins us live from Raleigh. Ashley?
Guys, this is a watch party that is for all Democratic candidates, and we're going to be seeing many Council of State candidates coming by. Of course, the Josh Stein campaign is here. We're going to see people starting to come into the ballroom here in downtown Raleigh at about 7:30. Now, when speaking with the Stein campaign, they are feeling confident, and interestingly, they credit 2 different pockets of voters as part of the reason for their confidence, one being women, the other being their coalition. They call it a coalition of Republican voters who are going to be voting for Josh Stein. Speaking of Josh Stein, here's some video of him. He was at Chavis Park earlier today. This is the most recent video that we have of him today, shaking hands with voters, doing a meet and greet. I spoke with his campaign manager. He is cautiously optimistic as they prepare for the polls to close here. They say, I asked them about, this really has been a campaign that has had national attention, a lot of it because of the controversy surrounding his opponent, Mark Robinson. How did you strategize your messaging around that? Here's what he had to say.
I think it put a fine point on what people already knew about Mark Robinson. This is somebody who said that abortions in this country happen because women can't keep their skirts down, that women aren't called to lead, and from a church pulpit said that some folks need killing. North Carolinians know who he is, and we believe that they're ready to reject him. And, in terms of how our strategy changed afterwards, it didn't. We were going to continue to show Mark Robinson for who he is in his own words.
So they do have a lot of confidence heading into tonight, but they also are trying to temper expectations. The polls have been showing double-digit leads that Stein has been having over Robinson. They're trying to say, we don't expect to have double-digit margins here. We will be happy with single-digit margins, but they are hoping to cruise to victory. Guys?
We'll be watching. Thank you so much, Ashley.
WRO's Eric Miller is joining us from another location in downtown Raleigh. He is with Republican candidate for governor Mark Robinson. Eric, what's the mood there at the Robinson campaign headquarters?
Well, Gerald, just within the last hour, the doors have finally opened for Robinson's watch party, and you can see the first couple of folks have started filing in here, talking to people, talking to these supporters. They say they are optimistic, and that's something we're also hearing from Robinson's campaign here, believing that he can pull out a surprise here on election night, despite some of those grim poll numbers. Now, you take a look at this video here. Robinson has been spending his day making a last-minute campaign blitz, swinging across the state from Greensboro to Raleigh, and ending with this solo event atop Wells Fargo Tower. That clashes with how this campaign began a year and a half ago when Robinson stood shoulder to shoulder with many in North Carolina Republican leadership, including Senate Leader Phil Berger. But over the last few weeks, as Robinson trailed in the polls, some Republicans began distancing themselves, especially after that bombshell CNN report. Now, Robinson has denied those allegations and is suing the news network, calling that report election interference. Despite that, he has vowed to accept the results of the vote. Take a listen.
Of course, we're going to accept the results of the election. We're not going to do anything but that. We're going to accept the results of this election, and I would hope that my opponent would too.
Now, as to why this campaign is optimistic tonight, Robinson, as well as his chief campaign strategist, have pointed to the strong turnout across the state, especially among Republicans, and especially in those western counties hard hit by Helene. As to whether that turnout can turn into a victory tonight, they and everybody else just going to have to wait and see. In Raleigh, Eric Miller, WRAL News.
And back here in the WRAL Live Center, we're keeping an eye on the National Electoral College map. A new projection from NBC News. Indiana goes into Donald Trump's column, along with Kentucky as the projected winner there, 19 electoral votes. So far, Vice President Kamala Harris has won in Vermont with 3 electoral votes. We've also heard in the past few minutes that in Georgia, the polls did close there at 7 o'clock, but there are apparently more than a dozen voting sites whose hours are being extended because of those bomb threats that we've been tracking through the afternoon. So keep an eye on that as we get those results coming in from Georgia.
An unfortunate consequence of Election Day. Brian, thank you. Don't go anywhere. Our Election Day team coverage doesn't stop here.
The city of Raleigh will soon have a new mayor. We're going to have a live report from WRAL's Sean Gallagher, who is following the race closely.
One of 2 counties delaying their vote reporting tonight is Wilson County.
WRAL's Grace Haba is now joining us live to tell us what happened there. Grace.
Yeah, so what we now know is that this polling location here at Gardner's Elementary in Wilson is extended for 30 minutes. So while a lot of other polling locations in our state will be wrapping up in about 15 minutes, this location will stay open for another 45 minutes. So if you're watching this, I know we have a lot of viewers who live in the Wilson County area. If Gardner Elementary is where you were supposed to vote and you were not able to come out this morning because of the delays, you do have another 45 minutes to come out and get in line. Now let's take it back to this morning. What happened was around 6:40 to 8:07 this morning, poll workers were unable to print authorization to vote forms. Now, what should have happened, according to the North Carolina Board of Elections, is those workers should have instead utilized a manual backup option, and they're not sure exactly why that procedure was not followed. So the result was there were a lot of people out here in line who told us they had to leave because they had to go to work and could not wait. Others camped out for nearly 2 hours before they're able to cast their ballots. Now, during that call, which happened about 3:30, which was when they did vote to extend the polling hours here, the North Carolina Board of Elections had some debate on that call about whether or not they really should extend the time here at all, or if so, how long to extend it for. But one woman we spoke with says she actually planned to come out here and vote this morning and says she doesn't care how long it took for them to correct that mistake, but she says that this polling location should have stayed open for the appropriate amount of time.
What about the people that had to go to work that can't come out later and vote? What about those people? Their votes are just now discarded. I don't think it's fair.
So again, those watching, if Gardner Elementary is your scheduled polling location, you do now have until 8 o'clock tonight. This is very likely going to be the last polling location to close. And the votes here are only going to delay the results of Wilson County. It will not affect the other 99 counties that we will be hearing from tonight, guys.
Let's hope everyone who had to leave that polling place can get back and then cast their vote. Thank you.
It's very busy there right now, and people in line will be allowed to vote. Well, the presidential race will most likely be decided by voters in 7 battleground states. We've been talking about this, including North Carolina. Let's
check in with WRAL's Kristen Severance. She has a look at the crucial swing states in this election. Kristen, the map basically empty except for a couple of places.
Yes, exactly. Brian Schrader told us earlier some of the states, just a few, have been called, but we are really keeping an eye on 7 swing states. And let's remind you, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona. So those are the 7 states we're really paying attention to. Now let's go through and kind of go over when the polls are closing and when we might expect some of these vote totals to be coming in. So Georgia, those polls closed at 7 o'clock. It's a swing state, of course, with 16 electoral votes. Polls closed just a few minutes ago. We're expecting vote reporting there to go relatively fast. North Carolina, of course, the polls close at 7:30 for all but 2 counties. As we were just telling you about, the State Board of Elections told us to expect results to come in between 9:30 and 10 tonight. All right, on to Pennsylvania. So many eyes on Pennsylvania. Polls close at 8 p.m. Officials will start reporting mail-in voting first, then they get to same-day votes. In Michigan, 15 electoral votes up for grabs. Polls close at 8 and 9. Now, votes could come in faster than in the past. Wisconsin, 10 electoral votes. Polls close at 9, likely to finish most counting on Wednesday. In Arizona, 11 polls close at 9 p.m., but the state law says they can't report for an hour. And in Nevada, where 6 electoral votes are up for grabs, polls close at 10 p.m. Eastern. We will be keeping our eye on all of these states. Back to you.
All right, Kristen, thank you. North Carolina's public school systems will have a new leader by the end of the night, we hope at least. Our latest WRAL News poll shows this race between Republican Michelle Morrow and Democrat Mo Green as being very, very tight.
We have crews covering both campaigns. We begin with WRAL's Destiny Patterson, who is live at the Marriott in downtown Raleigh, covering the Mo Green campaign. Destiny.
Well, the Democratic Watch Party kicks off at 7:30, so that's a little bit more than 10 minutes from now. We'll start to see people trickling in here as we also see those polls get ready to close. And of course, the supporters for Mo Green will be here, but Mo Green himself says that he's going to be watching those results come in from his home. He told me that he spent much of the day today in Guilford and Forsyth counties, and that's where he says voters say that they're most concerned about private school vouchers as well as teacher pay. Green brings years of experience from his time as a superintendent as well as a district administrator. He says that is what sets him apart from his opponent.
How important it is to try to elect somebody who, in my instance has a wealth of experience in leading public schools, believe in public schools as well, as opposed to her.
Of course, this is a very tight race, one that has garnered national attention much more than we typically see for this race. The winner will replace Republican Catherine Truitt, and the last 2 state superintendents have been Republican despite more funding for Democratic candidates. Destiny Patterson, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
All right, Destiny, thank you. This is going to be such a close race. Michelle Morrow is the Republican nominee for state superintendent.
WRAL's Sarah Kruger is in Cary with her supporters. They'll be spending the evening at Sophie's Grill and Bar. Sarah?
Gerald, that's right. Mara will be watching here along with many of her supporters. Now, she is not here just yet, but take a look inside. It is starting to fill up inside Sophie's as energy starts to come up in here as more anticipation builds as the polls are about to close. Now, Mara's been all over the area today at various polling sites making a final push. She bills herself as the only candidate with a plan. She wants more discipline in schools. She's called them places of liberal indoctrination. We caught up with her on Zoom earlier today as she was out at the polls.
We have such a severe teacher shortage. We have tens of thousands of families that have left the traditional public school system. I really want to go to them and say, what can we do to improve the schools and to bring you back?
Actually impacting everybody. And Morrow has faced criticism for anti-LGBT comments and for social media posts promoting political violence. That's even gotten national attention, really putting this race in a national spotlight. The latest polls, as we have mentioned, show an incredibly tight race. So we'll be here watching along with Morrow and her supporters here tonight. Of course, they are hoping for a victory. Sarah Kruger, WRAL News, live in Cary.
Thank you, Sarah.
Still to come, we are following the race for District 1. It's expected to be one of the closest congressional races in the country. How it could tip the balance of power nationally. We're live from the candidates' watch parties. Raleigh will have a new mayor after tonight. After serving since 2019, Mary Ann Baldwin announced that she would not run for re-election.
That opens up the race to lead the city of Oaks. WRAL's Sean Gallagher is downtown in Raleigh following this race for us. Sean?
Deborah, Gerald, this is a packed field. You have 5 people vying to lead the city of Raleigh, and we're here downtown where Janet Cowell will host a watch party here. I'm told about 100 supporters should be here within the next hour, but she's one of 5 candidates who will be watching for results tonight to see who will take hold as the next leader here in Raleigh. Now, there are some familiar faces that are a part of this race. Of course, Cowell has held other elected positions from city council to state treasurer, and you may recognize 2 other names here. Paul Fitz and Terrence Ruth ran unsuccessful mayoral bids in 2017 and 2022, respectively. But there are some newcomers. Eugene Myrick, a community advocate who has shown support for historical neighborhoods in the city, and James Shaughnessy, a pre-law student at William Peace University. Now, one thing all of these candidates share in common are their top priorities. They all have mentioned affordable housing and public safety as priorities. Now, we will be here for Cowell's Watch Party and following the results as they come in and bring you those results as they do. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News in downtown Raleigh.
All right,
Quite
Sean.
a setup. Nice night for it to be outside like that, too. Most North Carolina voters have less than a half an hour now to cast their ballots. In fact, it's just a few minutes.
WR's Chelsea Donovan joins us live from the polling place at Chavis Park in Raleigh. Chelsea?
Yeah, about 6 minutes left. The final countdown is on here at Chavis Park. It's been pretty busy. We've seen just a few last-minute voters trickling in. Of course, if you're in line at 7:30, that is good because you can still cast your vote. Of course, we've been to many polling places today. There are about 2,600 across the state of North Carolina. We've seen really minimal issues, just basically folks having to go back out to the parking lot because they forgot their ID or perhaps they were at the wrong polling place. Of course, so many issues top of mind, but so far it's been smooth sailing.
Honestly, it felt pretty good. You know, the lines wasn't long. I thought it was going to be, right around the building, and so I heard. But today was a good day. It was a good voting experience.
And of course, there hasn't been too many problems here. Not a lot of long lines. That's because there was record turnout here in North Carolina with 4.5 million people casting their ballots. Now, of course, it's just wait and see. Live in Raleigh, Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
We are just moments away until the polls close. Have you take a live look now?
Yeah, next, coming up at 7:30, when the polls close, we are back with Dan Haggerty and Laura Leslie with a deep dive into the governor's race. So stay with us.